I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahama land to the foundation.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Foundation with Howard Grant jamming with you on this beautiful, absolutely gorgeous day. Grateful to be in your company as we continue to jam with you. I hope you guys are good out there. It's a little overcast in the city today. My dogs was trying to freak out last night. They didn't know what this was. Rain. It is raining last evening, so I hope you guys are good out there and being able to make some things happen. I'm grateful to be here with you another day, another time, another dollar. As we continue to jam on this beautiful day, I'm always happy to be with you, always happy to be in this kind of a space, in this company, to talk about national growth and development, to talk about where we are as a people, to talk about how we're going to be able to make some things happen. I am always happy as we're doing these things collectively to be able to make these things happen. Guys, if you want to be able to be a part of what we're doing, please, you can just kind of reach out to me, 827-0111, 827-0111. I'd be more than happy to be able to accommodate you and have good conversations with you about national growth and development, about where we are, how we're making these things happen, and how we can be able to make some things happen in terms of being able to move forward nationally. So I'm grateful to be here with you as we're talking the way that we are and continue to be able to do these things. So let's continue to be able to talk to find out if we're in that right space and being able to do those things. Now, listen, before we go anywhere any further, I got to be able to tell you guys, come and check us out. Make sure you go pick up your bottle of Crystal Select. Listen, you see a girl who said, I got a song. I just came up with a song. What you got to? Dr. Pepper, baby, it's good and nice. Do-do-do, right? I could do jingles too. Don't fight me, right? So don't fight me, right? So we're talking about Crystal Select, right? Guys, go down there to East Street South to give me a call, and you can be able to get your water, refreshing water. I keep telling you now, if you want to be able to find yourself in this kind of a position where you can be able to get your water, put your company logo on that water, make sure these things are taken care of as it relates to what you're doing, you can do that with Crystal Select. Go down there, Mr. Clark. I'd be more than happy to accommodate you to ensure that you can be able to get your company logo. Let's say you have, in the hotel, we used to have what we call a pre-con, right? A pre-convention. So the pre-con is when persons come around, you have this kind of a grand meeting, and you have everybody setting up the logistics and how these things are going to go and who's going to be responsible for this, this, and this, and all these things like that. So if you are in that kind of a space and you do meetings and you have workshops and you do anything like that, you want to put your logo on something, you want to be able to reach out to them at Crystal Select. They'd be more than happy to kind of accommodate you and take good care of you in that space. All right, you can give them a call there on East Street South. The number is 325-1416. 325-1416. And they can take very good care of you in that space and ensure that you're accommodated accordingly. All right, go down there and check that thing out. Guys, if I'm pixelated or anything like that, if I'm slowing down, just let me know, so we could be able to make some modifications to that. Just got a call about how to get that done. And so we're trying to be able to make sure that that's taken care of, all right? It's a beautiful day to be in the neighborhood. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Would you be my neighbor? I don't know if I must be too old for y'all, all right? It's another day, another time, man. Let's talk about these things. A lot of things were in the paper yesterday, and I think I have a position on those things, and I'd like to be able to talk about it. But more recently, I want to be able to bring to your attention what has happened. What has happened over the course of 24 hours. Most recently, we had an opportunity to be able to see the beginning of the legal year commence with, let's look at the thing. At the beginning of the legal year, new judicial complaint systems, the Bahamas First Sentences Guide. Let's be able to see this and see exactly what's what. And so Supreme Court disposed of the seized the mark increase over the previous year. Let's look at that. So the beginning of the legal year happened, and they had a church service. And that church service was held, let me just get the information, man. I'm looking in this paper, it ain't in there. I read it online, and so I can be able to pull it up for you to see exactly what's what. Now, I read it online, and let me see whether or not it is here. Let's check out the Nassau Guardian. Let me see if the Nassau Guardian has that. Yeah, it does. Let's check out the story and read it and see exactly what's what. The story in the Nassau Guardian today says, disgraceful. Disgraceful. Bishop Boyd questions sentencing disparity between poor blacks and well-connected whites and blacks. I thought that this was something to be able to highlight and have a good conversation about, because the approach that he took was wild. It was wild. So let's talk about it. And this is a story by Tanika Thompson of the Guardian senior reporter. Tanika Thompson put the story together. Anglican Bishop Reverend Leish Boyd had harsh words for the members of the legal community yesterday, calling on them to dispense justice fairly. That's what he says, as he questioned what he sees as a disparity in punishment doled out to the poor black men compared to the white or well-connected black people. See, Boyd's admonishment came as he delivered the sermon at Christ Church Cathedral in New Providence at a Sunday commemorating the start of the 2026 legal year. He says, I ask you to mete out justice fairly. That's what Boyd says. He said, let me tell you what I mean. How is it that a poor black man commits the same crime as a white person or a rich or well-connected black man, and the two of them get, listen to this, different treatment as they get a different sentence? Okay. You see, how is that? I ain't been to law school. You tell me, how can that be? That's what he said, drawing laughs from some of the church. He says, I'm not laughing, Boyd added. Y'all laugh because y'all know it's true. And I mention it because it's disgraceful. That's what he says. He says, it's disgraceful. And it is not the justice which our British forebears bequeathed to us. Let's go ahead. I had to pause for you so that I could soak into your spirit and you could understand the trajectory that the great bishop is being able to speak from. Let's talk about this. He said, the forebears bequeath is graceful and not the justice which our British forebears bequeathed to us. It is not the justice that the architects of the majority rule and the independence envision. I agree with that. He says, and it is not what your parents and grandparents taught you in terms of fairness. I agree with that. So 2/3 of the thing I jam in with. But the bequeathing aspect, Bishop, okay, I'm not going to fight you. So it says, Boyd said that he's willing to talk further about these topics after the service, adding that he just wanted to encourage members of the legal community. Right? He spoke before the congregation, which included Chief Justice Sir Ian Winder, Attorney General Ryan Pinder, and other distinguished judges, and other members of the legal community. Pinder, who was asked to respond to Boyd's comments, pushed back. Well, I think that making a blanket statement like that doesn't take into account the facts and the circumstances that are in each and every single matter that we look at. She says, I'll give you an example. When we spoke about plea agreements, part of the issue is the veracity of the evidence. For example, or if there is some sort of, international tie, for instance. He says, I know with one of the vessels that we seized in the illegal charters in the country, we couldn't seize the vessel because the bank already had a lien on it. And so, you look at where you say, oh, you seized the Bahamas vessel, but you didn't seize the foreign vessel. Well, there are other complications in those types of matters. We have matters where we impose fines, for example. And then he goes on to say, he says, you have the choice of a fine, or if you can't pay the fine, you get incarcerated. So, of those that are convicted, choose to pay a fine because they have the ability to pay the fine. So there are different aspects that you take into account when you are sentencing. When you have the prosecutor seek a certain sentence and when the judge really puts down a certain sentence. Pinder said that what may help with sentencing are a new sentencing guideline announced by the Chief Justice yesterday. Sir Ian said that the Sentencing Guideline Commission is already complete with its work. He said that the guidelines include principles of sentencing from a range of crimes, including violent offenses, sexual offenses, and firearm offenses. The value of sentencing guidelines is that they promote consistency, fairness, and transparency in the criminal justice system by providing a structured framework for judges to determine appropriate sentences for criminal offenses. This is what Ian Winder says, and the story goes on. If you guys want to be able to read the rest of the story, you can be able to pick up the Guardian newspaper and find out exactly what. It's peculiar. You know why? I love Bishop Blaise Boyd. I do. I come from an Anglican background, and as a result of the background that I come from in the Anglican Church, there is a level of respect that these particular authorities hold, and that we continue to be able to yield to them And we expect them to be able to, provide us with insight and information. And it's almost like God speaking. This is what you think, and this is sort of a conditioning in your mind that, okay, this is an inspirational thought from the Father. Let's be patient. Let's be quiet. Let's listen to this, right? Let's be clear. In this room, okay, let's go back. The head of state in the Bahamas is the Anglican Church. The head of these particular entities is the Anglican Church. Historically, this is the structure, this is the design, this is the setup. The Anglican Church. Okay? The Anglican Church is responsible for the execution and the setting out of, after they've already explored the world, after they've done all these particular things, after all these things were done, the Anglican Church ensured that they've been able to have persons that are governors, persons that can be able to ensure that the overlooking of colonialism, and you can be able to take on the mindset of the Anglican Church. That's what this is. This is what this is. Let's be clear about this, okay? Let's be clear about this. When we start to have this kind of a conversation, you got to be clear about this and have a very clear understanding. The Anglican Church is about authority. It's about tradition. It's about the alignment with what comes out of England. Okay. So the Anglican Church has not changed over centuries in terms of what their expectations are, in terms of the leadership and the rulership, the transition from one space to another. This is the authority that is vested in them. The Anglican Church. Okay? Let's be clear. As we identify those things and we recognize this, very clear understanding as to who's who and what is what. Now, the bishop sits in this particular capacity with, as he began his conversation, he started to talk about what was bequeathed to us from, I suppose, Mother England and the Anglican Church, or the authorities, or, I don't know what he used, because I couldn't ingest the information too well, right? Let's be clear about this. This wasn't designed for us. If I'm talking to the 80-some% blacks in this country, this wasn't designed for us to find leadership, to find ownership, to find acquisition, to find growth, to find the development. This wasn't designed for us. This awkward waltz that we do between the ethnicities that exist in this particular space is because this was not designed for blacks. Not for blacks to be able to find significant success and to grow exponentially. This was not designed from its foundation for blacks to find growth and development in this country. We were designed, conditioned, and prepared to be laborers in the space that we exist in right now. Let's be clear about this. Let's be clear about this. I want to be decent. I want to take my time with this. This design that we've identified was not structurally and strategically designed to be able to be all encompassing, all inclusive. This was segregation. This was colonialism. This was us and them. And the us was superior. And the them were the inferior aspects. Historically, you can be able to look at particular aspects and realize that in some quadrants coming out of the United States of America, which were also loyalist, who took on their own position, these particular persons didn't even see black people as human. We were 3/8 or 3/5 human. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. So when we start to have this conversation at the onset of what Bishop Boyd is taking on this kind of a posture to indicate that this was was not bequeathed to us. Right? I won't read it clearly. He says it's a disgraceful, it is not the justice that our British forebears bequeathed to us. That is crazy. Our British forebears, our British overlords, our British slave masters. Yeah. If you do the history, you'd recognize that during the time that the persons would have come down from England, and those high society persons that have been able to come down into this space where there was acquisition, there was this kind of they brought 10 slaves to one slave master. This is historic. This is not a question. I'm not asking you something. I'm telling you historic facts that exist out here. When they came down, and you would find this out if you would do, I did a couple tours, and I did Bahama House, and I did a class that lasted about 3 weeks that I got certified for, that right here in the country, that actually spoke to these particular things, right? Enjoyed the class thoroughly. And Mr. Mortimer taught the class, Craig Mortimer. Had a wonderful time with him. Historic guru, being able to give us, I was blown away with these things. And from a historic standpoint, you'd recognize that when they came down on these boats and these ships in these particular spaces, every white oligarch that came down had 10 black slaves at their disposal. And so the ratio had always been off. Let's be clear about this. The ratio had always been off. We were bred and brought into this space, many of us, as slaves. There's no justice in that. There's no justice in that. And so the very concept and idea that we were bequeathed by our British forebears is the exact same thing that you were talking about. This relentless subservience, this inferiority that exists in these particular spaces of always being able to identify us as less than, and there is an elevation that we should always look up. This is what existed. The structure in our society was never designed by law, by expectation, by conditioning, was never designed to be able to assist a poor black man. In fact, segregation only shifted over the years from ethnic segregation to economic segregation. I'm getting deep today. I don't even know why you all do this. But Bishop, you put it out there, so I just can touch it, just a little taste. We went from ethnic segregation, which is a hue and the perception of our face and our features. We went by that to an economic segregation, hence the introduction of certain communities that had elevated status in our society. Yeah, this is the concept of being able to run behind the gate, is because this was the introduction of the ethnic segregation that exists here after independence, after the opening of the environment. Come on, let's talk. And so because of ethnic segregation, how they've designed the laws in the book, remember, we didn't write our own Constitution. In 1964, the Constitution was read in the hearing of the Bahamian people. I think one or two modifications were actually incorporated, maybe 67 or 73, one or the other, I can't remember. But since then, this is the foundation of this booklet that we continue to run back to the Privy Council for, is based upon the writings of a grouping that had absolutely nothing to do with the majority of the persons that live in this country right now, which are black people. And because they were written in such a manner, you can be able to look at these laws with clarity and understand that even though this was designed strategically to be able to ensure that there is an uplifting of those who are of a lighter hue in our society, you could transpose that and ensure that there's simultaneous elevation for those with wealth. That's where that's where there's sort of an idea that exists in these spaces. The bishop is here having a noble conversation that a great deal of us are kind of wrapped up in our own corners, and we continue to talk about. And we say, oh, but this is wrong, or this is right, and I can't believe they did this, and I can't believe they did it. Accept it. But the bishop sits in a capacity where the overseers that still exist, come on, man, y'all don't want to have no conversation with me. I swear y'all don't want to have no conversation with me. You don't want to talk like this. This independence that we champion, this independence that we continue to be able to carry on our shoulders as though our brothers and sisters and our forefathers had done so much, and there was blood that's shed in the streets to ensure that we can be able to grab hold of this independence, that's not real. It was a casual conversation. If you listen to historians talk about the fact that because there were so many other quadrants that were asking for and willing to fight for independence, that out of Mother Britain came a concept that actually flowed throughout the Commonwealth, that we will afford you an opportunity to be able to capture your independence. And we'll do this, this, and this for you. But it wasn't structured as independence. It will be pronounced as independence, but this is self-reliance. This was self-reliance. And our independence is merely self-reliance. As we continue to be able to genuflect to the head of state, which is Britain, to the structure that exists in our Constitution, to the layer that exists in these particular spaces, we continue to genuflect to Britain. Don't matter if the $17,500 that they spend for this suit and the gold, the blonde wig that they put on their heads, even though some of our locals are now taking that blonde wig off, the institution, even if it doesn't give the appearance of it, the institution was not designed for us. And so the segregation that exists in these particular spaces, had to do with your ethnicity. The segregation, which initially had to do with your ethnicity, now is economic. And as much as it pains you to say this, the fact of the matter is that you will be treated differently if you're well connected and you're financially endowed in this country. It's just simple. Unless they get you red-handed, with your hand in a cookie jar, tip and toe like Pink Panther. And then they say, well, you can't do nothing but that. You're sitting in a room where no matter the scathing evidence that comes and spills out in society, you're talking to men and women who we would have heard recordings, we would have heard this, we would have heard that, and everyone came to a social assessment of who should be guilty and who should be innocent. But that's just not how the law works. We already then, from a social assessment standpoint, look at these people and say, you wrong, you wrong, you wrong. Put everybody in jail. And now we look at the entire justice system and say they're wrong. But that's just not how the law works. It's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about interpretation and what you could prove. This is just what we're dealing with. And a lot of blame can be laid at the foot at both leaders, whether that be a justice-led leadership in our country with holes that exist in the system that we can't be able to get to expedite to the justice that we seek, or by the fact that we don't have the caregivers from a church standpoint that are responsible to ensure that you give the morality, a path and a space for morality to be able to germinate, to grow, to be able to expand in this space. These things don't exist anymore. They don't exist anymore. And so to have this kind of a conversation, it feels like a one-off. It feels nostalgic. It feels like something that should have been said 40, 50 years ago that persons just forgot about. It feels like something that should have been driven home for a long time that persons have been indifferent with and trying to be able to deliver. It feels like you're behind the ball. Because the same can be said for the church. If a lawyer stands up there and starts to be able to pontificate of how pastors in the church have, rejected the responsibility of being able to be shepherds, how pastors in the church are now being able to rape young children. And listen, this is an isolated incident, but it doesn't reflect the entire body. And I don't know whether or not this kind of pronouncement that Bishop Boyd has taken is a blanket statement that lays over the entire body of our legal system, a judicial system. And it should not be. The difficulty that I'm having is this sort of an idea that we seek to be able to blame one person or another for these things. That's a difficult thing for me. The difficulty that I'm having is that the top bishop in the region is seeking to be able to identify another subsector who would have gone off to school just like him, who would have been able to ascend, and many persons in the room would have ascended to their various degrees and positions just like he has. All of them coming under the auspices of the Anglican Church, whether the confines of a quote-unquote free Bahamas. And to take on this position is peculiar to me. And I don't disagree with the bishop. I don't disagree with the bishop. I don't. However, I would say this is the glass house effect. When you're in a glass house, we don't necessarily throw stones. It's easier to be able to pull strategic persons in leadership together to talk about solutions while you're in this glass house and to be able to find your way to that solution as opposed to being able to throw rocks. Because there is a lot of blame to go around for a broken society. We're broken. We lack integrity. We lack morality. We lack conviction. We lack focus. We lack a dream. We lack determination. We lack structure. A structure that was designed for Caucasians. A structure that was designed for those persons in a superior position that was never made modified. That was never modified. This is where we are in this country. And you want to have a conversation about these things, about the justice that was bestowed to us by those persons who bequeathed and so forth and so on. This is a fallacy. It wasn't designed to be in this particular capacity. This is a proverbial franchise. That's what this is. This was designed to be a proverbial franchise, a colony of Europe, of England. And if you know anything about franchise, we're not only to take on their language, we're supposed to take on the way that they do business, their posh position. And when they arrive, we need to be able to have a very clear understanding of who they are and whose we are. We belong to them. There's independence through everything off. Everything. And so they're still scrambling over the past 50 years to be able to find themselves in the strategic position. I'm always baffled, and I never want to get into these conversations. But I'm always baffled in our society that the way that they speak about strategic persons who they would have gone to St. Anne's with or Queen's College with, and how these people are so uneducated, and they was the dumbest in class, and this and that. These people have jobs. These people have jobs. These people own businesses. They own this, they own that, they acquire these things. How did they get that money? Money has always elevated them. Money has always been their friend. Money was never elusive with them. They always had access. And even if one family didn't have that, There was a grouping that had a very clear understanding that we now exist in the minority. And so they protected each other by now sharing some of the same principles that we had when we were the majority, but in a minority position from an economic standpoint. Now that paradigm has shifted, and we are in the majority, not economically, but numerically. Now we are the majority in this country. The minority, which is our white brothers and sisters, are now finding ways to do the proverbial ASU. And I say proverbial because they have connections to people who own the bank. They don't need to go through what you're always going through. These people, I never see them work in a day. Some of these people, and they get a brand new car. How does these things happen? You sit down there, you hurt your head and get deep into depression when you start to think about how another man's doing his business. And so you don't. You leave this. But there is enough issues that exist on this side of the pond, on this side of the track, on this side of the field, that we be able to do this. There may be disparity from a legal standpoint, but there's also significant disparity that exists in church. Mama got, Papa got, God bless the child who got his own. There exists significant disparity in the church also. And money has a factor, plays a factor. Relationship and good connectivity, it plays a factor. Let's not pretend we expect there to be this kind of a transparency that bubbles out and flows out of entities such as political organizations and governments. You want that to happen. You want it to happen. You want it to happen. You want there to be this sort of a concept that says, you're taken care of, you're going to be good, you're going to be good. You want that to happen. You want to believe that justice is blind. You want to believe that. But righteousness is not blind. Justice is not blind. None of these things are blind in our society. If you're rendering it to Caesar, Caesar needs to know where his money going and who got it. So there's always one eye open. They put the eye on the dollar bill. You think they ain't watching you? They watching you. Because money controls every sector and subsector in our society. Even when we expect there to be a transcendence that goes above and beyond money and the acquisition thereof, we come to the church, and the church expects you to be able to pay a hefty amount of tithes. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and in I think it was the Lutheran church, he started to talk about how the Lutheran church registered their church as a nonprofit in the United States of America, and they have assets that actually exceeds $1.3 billion at this point. Billion. And says, because they're registered in such a peculiar manner, they don't have to pay no tax on this. They don't have to do any of these things, but they've never taken one dime of this money. Not one dime. To be able to assist with any social projects, anything to do with the community, anything to do with giving back. They've never done that. And then he goes on into the podcast and starts to talk about how they have a storehouse. They own 2.3 million acres of property, the second largest property holders in the United States of America, the Lutheran Church. 2.3 million acres of property. And they have cattle and all these things. And they indicate to you that when the tribulation comes and great calamity comes, this is the podcast I'm listening to, that we'll take care of you and feed you and pay your bills and so forth and so on. But they require you to give 10% of your gross income annually. They require that now, 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 now. And so don't just try to slide them anything. They need to also see your bank statement and your income statement. This is where we are right now. The Word of God says to me that you either serve God or Mammon. You know other choices. You don't have no choice to Mahatma and Gandhi and all these other people. You don't have no other choice to serve nobody. There's only two gods here. God our Savior, Jesus Christ Almighty, or Mammon, money. It seems as though, from an earthly standpoint, every religion has gravitated and latched onto Mammon and give you the accoutrements, the superficiality, the feel that we serve in God. There was enough blame going around. And just like Ryan Pinder has taken up the course of being able to explain away why certain decisions are made, why this person's have done that, while that person's have done another thing. The fact of the matter is that every sector and subsector does the exact same thing to protect their interest. Church has done that. Non-profit organizations have done that. Governments have done that. Sectors within governments have done that. They protect their interests to be able to ensure that they could sustain this thing well into the future. They're not concerned about you. Philanthropy efforts could always cause you to be able to end up broke. They're not concerned about you, about being able to give away the profit that we're getting in this particular space. The only way that we ensure that there is reciprocity in this relationship that you have, and promise you well into the future that if something happens, we will take care of you. This is the church. And so where's the justice in the church, Bishop? Where's the justice in the church? Why hasn't the church advocated for the liberation and the access of land and property that exists with people who've been going to that church for almost 150 years right there, 8 Mile Rock, St. Stephen's Church? Property in 8 Mile Rock, around St. Stephen's Church, around the next side, other parts of 8 Mile Rock, are generational properties. And people who are just mere laborers have gone to work and labored and come back and been able to give you. No one ever cared about their ownership. No one ever cared about a black poor man's nothing. Nothing. No one never cared about that. No church. I never see a church concerned about it. Never. They don't care about a Negro's position. Not one church I never see none. Never. They tell you that they do. They give you the gimmicks and the accoutrements and the feel and the acoustics. They do all these things, the acoustics, I'm sorry. They do all these things to be able to ensure that they give you a rhythm. They can be able to tap into a nostalgia and give you a feel. And you do whatever it takes. My God, take my money, Jesus. But they never was concerned about us. Never. The justice that we need to be able to acquire things for our families, 150 years that you could boast that you were a part of a community and the people right around you don't own their own things. And the only time that we could be able to find anything is when we could be able to go back to the government and say what the government has not done. This is a simple thing. There should be agitation that comes out of your church. The closest that I've seen for social agitation, and I think I'm seeing that now with Bahama Harvest. But the closest that I would have seen in my lifetime, pronounced and charging towards an objective and ownership and leadership, is BFM, Bahamas Faith Ministries. With the development and concept of being able to identify the talent that exists in their house and being able to prepare and table legislation. Now, this I'm not saying to you because I know that Jordan Prince Will and other persons would have been able to develop these particular things, but I'm saying in my lifetime, pronounced with my consciousness and understanding about social events and the importance of advocating, agitating, and moving towards solutions for those particular things, I've seen Faith Ministries, Bahamas Faith Ministries, BFM, take on a significant challenge and move towards that by tabling concepts and ideas that can be able to see the movement or the transformation of our society. I know that historically other persons have done that. I know that historically other denominations outside of the Anglican Church have been houses and refuge for a great deal of people over the years. These things have shifted though. A lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed. It's difficult for me to be able to dive deep and start to be able to pull the whip out for the justice system in our country without being able to understand. I understand where Bishop Leish Boyd is coming from, and I'm sure that he could expound upon that. But without being able to look at the indifference, even biblically, we understand that before we take the beam or the speck out of our own eyes, or out of others' eyes, before we take the speck and the beam out of others' eyes, it's important that we move the log from ours. It's important that we first do that internal checking, because Bishop, though you sit at the pinnacle, the paramount of a religious organization within the confines of a specific demographic, the fact of the matter is that we, who are a Christian nation, have a very clear understanding that there is, throughout the length and breadth of the body of Christ, there is no denomination that exists. There's no segregation between my left arm and my right arm. The blood of Christ that flows through the entire body unites them. Unites them. Despite their pronouncement, despite their position, we understand that. And so when you're speaking not a part of a denomination or a demographic or a specific subsector of society. You're speaking for the body of Christ. And the body of Christ has done some significant injustice and broken the spirit of a great deal of men out here and women. They've stolen from men and women. They've stolen their virginity, their innocence, a great deal of them. They've lied to them about how you can be able to move forward with Christ if you do this, whether that be sexually, whether that be emotionally, whether that be financially. People have paid into this concept and idea of trying to be able to be righteous and do the right thing. These people will pay greatly in hell. We believe that. For the injustice that they've been able to levy against our brothers and sisters over the years. For the fact that they were affiliated with massacre of a great deal of our brothers and sisters over the years. The church will pay its position. Those individuals will be responsible, and they will have to be held to account in due time and due season. My only position, my only point, my only desire to speak with you is that to remind you that the church is no different than the legal or judicial arm of the government. Every one of us have our own responsibilities. And while you were impassioned and a great deal of these things needed to be said, and I'm hoping that strategic persons can be able to absorb this and apply it accordingly for growth and development of the country. Why is he talking like this? Remember, there's time to be able to have conclaves within the body of Christ here in the country and start to talk about what's what. That's it. That's it. All of us have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. All of us. We are brother's keeper, and we have the responsibility. This is a conversation I believe that needs to be had. I'm glad that you initiated that caused the discourse socially for us to be able to know where we are and where we're going. I'm glad that you did that. But let's be clear with something. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Despite the fact that you did that, you need to make concerted effort to ensure that you can be able to reach your brothers and sisters who are giving a bad name to the body of Christ in the earth realm. I appreciate what you've said. I appreciate your direction. I appreciate your elevated position. I appreciate your articulation. I appreciate those things even for the consideration of being able to release this. I appreciate your boldness. I appreciate your tenacity to be able to speak to a body of men and women who sit in an elevated position in our society and let them know your convictions, your positions. I'm glad you did that. Now you need to do the exact same thing with your church members and tell them this is how we should treat the Bahamian people. Exact same thing with your leadership core throughout the length and breadth of the Anglican Church, with a connection to the Catholic Church, to the Pentecostal Church, to the non-denominational church, to the Baptist Church. It's important that we have a conversation about your contribution for growth and development in this country, rather than a periodic one-off that has a scathing review and causes persons to be able to speak for 2 days in social media, but nothing gets done. We need to move swiftly. Let's make some things happen, guys. I'm going to take this quick commercial break. When we get back, we can dive a little bit deeper and start to have a good conversation about where we are as we look at 7,000 families on food assistance. Feeding groups say that VAT cut, not enough, as demand surges. Quick break, guys. Going to be right back after this.
Taking Bahamian music to the world.
This DJ
Sampler. Hit that subscribe button like a goat skin drum.
Hello, Ricky. It's Johnny Gate. Man. Listen, don't believe they try to keep us locked down. They want us to go inside the kill man. They're good break and scrape man. That's sweet music. You know why they go there. You know when they go there. It's kill man. Watch this. When the music plays, I'm the first one to dance. Sexy gal gon' whine on me while my rum in my hand. Reggae spread so sweet, don't think you understand. I go in to mash up the place every time I go by the farm. I always get catch, drinking till I lose and I wet. Nobody gon' watch me if I kill bad and I sweat. On your market set, drunk but I ain't missing a step. Man, if you ain't feel the vibe, then stay over there by yourself. When Reagan's great return, I can dance, I can sing, I can wave my flag. When Reagan's great return, I can drink all the rum, I can get on by. When Reagan's great returns, I can dance, I can sing, I can wave my flag. When Reagan's great return, I can drink all the rum, I can get on by. Get him, Ricky! Just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that way. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like to fish with Johnny Cake. I say, just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that way. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like to fish with Johnny Cake. I say, just give me the Reagan's great. Beat that drum and scrape that way. I get scrapped inside Long Bay. I like to fish with Johnny Cake. When the music plays, I'm the first one to dance.
Yo, bust it, bass sampler, bust it, my lord.
Reggae step so sweet, don't think you understand. Man, wanging on woman, wanging back on a man. I always get catch, drinking till I lose and I wet. Nobody gon' watch me if I kill bad and I sweat. On your market set, drunk but I ain't missing a step. Man, if you ain't feel no vibe, then stay over there by yourself. When Reagan's great return, I can dance, I can sing, I can wave my flag.
Mothers.
The Bahamian music ambassador, DJ Sampler.
Yo, yo, bust it, bass sampler, bust it, mothers.
It's 3 a.m. and I'm waiting for the sun. Lost track of the days, man. Look at this, ain't no fun. Cell phone in my left hand, TV on my right. My mouth got to dry 'cause there ain't no room inside. Longing for the days when I was wild and free. Out to everything was lit, not a care or worry. Now it's like I joined the clan of HMB, but I ain't commit no crime, so please set me free. Lose me, let me go. I don't want the inside no more. Lose me, let me go. This is killing me, that's for sure. So let me out, let me out, let me out, let me out. Lose me, let me go. I don't want the inside no more. Lose me, let me go. This is killing me, that's for sure, yeah.
Mothers.
They say we on lockdown? But who into that? I'm tired, yeah. Life inside ain't as easy as it seems. Sit back, let me tell you exactly what I mean. The current ain't fighting, date up everything. I'm working like a slave while he sits up like a king. Can I help you? You sit and rest. Come here, babe, let me feel upon your breast. Mine is a nightmare, this ain't the life for me. I ain't coming no crime, so please just set me free. Lose me, let me go. I don't want me inside no more. Lose me, let me go.
Yo, yo, bust it, bass sampler, bust it, mothers.
His name was Arthur, he was my papa. He loved to whistle, boy he was good. Plowing the field or catching fish, you could hear Papa whistling like this. Oh, whistle Papa, you whistle so sweet. Hey. He was a Cat Island man, a gentleman. He said to be kind to all mankind.
bass sampler. Bust it. Mother.
my ways. We proceeded to shake the bow, stern to the port side, starboard. Can let the music turn you on. I wanna dance with you all night long. Angel in the party. Angel in the party.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being able to hold. I had a call. I had to kind of deal with that as quick as possible. Please forgive me as we continue to be able to move forward and make these things happen. It's a beautiful day. Grateful to be in your company. It is a Thursday afternoon, January 15th. We're mid-month. We are halfway through the third month of January, right? I know it's a difficult time. I'll never forget, my wife has been working for customs for a long time. She's been working for the government for a long time. And as a result of that, I've known for years the difficulty, especially when we're waiting to be able to get to another pay date if we have some things to do. Oh man, it's always been difficult. We're trying to figure out how we can pay this bill, how we can do this, how we can do that. Oh Lord, how we can get this. We need this money, especially if you spend all your money during Christmas time. And so I know your pain, a great deal of persons. I know what you're going through as it relates to being able to make a decision of what you got to do moving forward. So I hope that you're patient. I hope that you endured. I hope that the Roman noodles that you're eating doesn't give you indigestion. Yeah, we're talking. I hope that, because people they just got to do what you got to do until you can get to where you got to go. It's just what it is. That's a society that we live in. You got to do what you got to do until you can get where you can go. And we got to be able to make this thing forward. And the issue that I have most of the time as we see these things is that people just do what they got to do, and they do that till death. And I think that's one of the conversations that we were having yesterday. The difficulty that we have, and I was talking to one of my guys, one of my writers. The difficulty that we have in this country is that we've been conditioned in this kind of a posture. We've been conditioned. The first generation of persons who would have come out of Egypt, they understood. They saw the glory of God. They understood, right? Yeah. So let's just be very clear about this. The first generation of persons would have been able to see the goodness of God, and they still didn't believe how they could ever get into the promised land. God didn't let you walk on dry land. He didn't bring you from tribulation. He allowed you to be able to acquire all the gold, and you borrow all these things from these people. So you're left with wealth. All these things that God has done for you. When you were hungry, He give you manna from heaven. He take care of you, that you never gone hungry, right? You got a cloud by day and the moon by night guiding you. You never was in a position where you didn't have, that you lacked, and you still didn't believe. And so you got to get rid of them. Now the issue that the second and third generation has, and this is what we suffered with and we are faced in this country, is that we have never seen. You can't say that, I can't believe that you want more. We've never seen more. The second and third generation has never seen more. You stop talking about God. You stop talking about these things. You start talking about freedom. You start talking about this sort of an idea. You stop going to church. You stop doing all these things. We don't know your God. We don't know your God. We know the God of hip-hop. We know the God of twerking. We know the God of cash money for the 99 and 2000. We know that God. We don't know your God. We don't know the God that you speak of, the God of our great-grandparents. We don't know those God. We don't know that God. We know the God that preserved our grandparents through hardship and the Great Depression and the Second World War and the contract. We don't know that God. No one speaks of Him anymore. We know the God of the PLP. We know the God of the FNM, but we don't know the God of our forefathers, because they have made the God of the PLP, the God of the FNM, the God of this, the God of that, the God of money, the God of crack cocaine. Because they tell me more stories about coke, what they find on the beach, than Jesus Christ. You don't know. And so the difficulty that you have, and the difficulty that the second generation of persons have, and the third generations who would have found liberty out of Egypt, the difficulty that they have is that these stories are not passed down. And if the stories aren't passed down, you could never ask a young person, do they want more? More what? More what? This is the difficulty that you have. How can a young person aspire to do something that they never see in their environment? They never see this. They never see this. They never see nothing like this in their environment. How can you ask them, you don't want more? They can aspire to the greatness that exists in the back of your mind because you would have heard a story or read something or saw something that says that there's life, there's more life that can be lived in this. None of us know this. We don't know that you're God. We don't. And so let's just be very clear about these things. As we identify this, as we continue to be able to have these conversations, we're going to be able to be very clear about what's happening. We have to be deliberate in our society. We have to be strategic in our society. We have to be determined in our society to be able to make a path for growth and development. You've forgotten the God of your forefathers. You've forgotten. You've picked up the God of crack. Yeah, you've picked up the God of all these things, the accoutrements, the superficiality of life, the God of vanity. You have gravitated towards mammon, and you've rejected the God of our forefathers that saved your great-grandmother, who gave birth to your Grammy in the bush. And if your Grammy was never born, you would have never been here. I can't even get no amen. But you don't know that God. And it's important that we start to have these conversations because people just believe that it's supposed to be an automatic. These things are not automatic, man. There needs to be conditioning. There needs to be relationship. There needs to be a dependence, a leaning on. There needs to be someone that you can turn to. When you don't have a God, you turn to anything. You turn to anything. Anything. You turn to Santa Maria. You turn to hoodoo. You turn to voodoo. You turn to all these things that someone says you can do this. You turn to fortune telling. You turn to all these things, man. You turn to sujing. You turn to yoga. You turn to Buddhism. You turn to anything because you don't have an anchor. And then you justify your position and say, well, this makes sense to me because no one has ever told you about the God of your forefathers. That's not our heritage, our lineage. This is not where we come from. This is not who we are. This is not who we are. This is the issue that we're having in our society. You want to find out why young people want to kill and why you're doing this and why you're doing that. They don't have nothing. They don't believe in nothing. They don't have no hope. They don't have nothing. They've found a new form of communication among themselves. They found a new form of communication amongst themselves. They treat their bodies in a manner which my generation finds peculiar. Girls used to do little fresh things when I was young, little fresh things. They used to be in the bush, right? We always needed little fresh, fast girls. We used to go to Amarok High School, right? We used to go to Amarok High School. And in Amarok High School, it's on the northern side of Amarok, right? The northern side. Okay? So that's at the top of Grand Bahama, the northern side of 8 Marok. So top west, northwest. 8 Marok High School was about, maybe about 1,000 yards away from the actual water, the pond. There was a back pond back there. There's a pond. If you go a little bit further down the Sea Grape, this is where they used to be able to put all the dump. It was a dump site, right? And when they used to do like mining and I'm sorry, pining back in the day, there's a track road that runs, an actual road that runs on the northern side of 8 Mile Rock. An actual road that runs on the northern side of 8 Mile Rock. And in strategic spaces, you can be able to see that there are train tracks. So they would cut down the pine and then move the pine and so forth and so on. This, throughout my exploration years, these are the years. And so girls, when we used to go to high school, in 8 Mile Rock High, this is when they used to wear the little frilly socks, and then they used to turn up their skirt a little bit, so everybody had a nice, clean, fresh skirt, and they roll it up under their thing to make the skirt a little shorter, and you know, you could see their thighs and whatnot, and you know, they had fluffy socks. They were some of the flyest girls in life had to offer. Oh, Jesus. 1992, 1993, 1994. The freshest, prettiest, sexiest girls you ever will come across was in high schools in 8 Mile Rock. I'm sure it was in Freeport too. I'm not sure about them, but I know 8 Mile Rock gals. Oh, God, they was pretty. They look good. Stylish. Let's do that. Not pretty, because everybody wasn't pretty, but it was stylish. Right? Super fly. Right? And we always knew. We knew who was what and who used to do what. We knew. We knew. We knew, and I care not to call nobody name, but, you know, we knew. Fellas used to take the gals, we used to say the back pond, go to back pond. That's what you call it, go to back pond. And so they used to go through this track road, have sex, and then come back to class, right? So we knew the fresh girls. So I don't want to play stupid like this never used to exist. This was happening from the beginning of time, okay? So you get boys and girls together, they can be able to do some strange things for some change. Talk to me. Again, this be decent. And as we identify those things, we recognize the importance of being able to see the caliber of people that you're dealing with. And so as you grow, you see certain elements in certain people. You say, okay, well, this is familiar to what I saw when I was growing up, and this one looked like this, and so forth and so on. I don't want this type of woman around me, so forth. Okay, good. And the same thing for fellas, right? You know who was prone to smoke dope and shoot dice and this and that and all these things like that, because we grew in this society. But everything was done secretively. Can I say this to you? Everything was done in such a manner where they sought to be able to explore the liberty of themselves and answer the call of the debauchery that was whispering to them. Let's just be very clear. That's what was happening, right? And so even as they sought to answer those calls, they did so in a very discreet manner. They didn't do it out loud that everyone could know and start to call you, because there was certain disdain or this kind of a disdained position when people called you, oh, you was loose, Jesus, this one loose, eh? Just a nasty, all, and you know, the cussing and start from there. But things have changed over the years. Things have changed over the years with the music, with the pronouncement. This generation of young people have created their hieroglyphs through the telephones, their own form of communication that most of us just don't understand. And I don't know whether or not just because I'm getting older, I normally keep abreast with these things, but I realize that there is a level of communication and a level of understanding, even without words, that causes two young people to be able to sit in the position where they agree in a space. It's bananas to me, but this is what it is. And then you listen to Vybz Kartel's pre-jail telling you exchange here, no robbery, that you could be able to have sex in exchange for money. And once there is a very clear understanding to the two parties that we could be able to exchange money for sex, and that's not robbery. And so you accept a position of prostitution by musical influence and don't even realize the condemnation that you're swallowing into yourself. And going right back to the church, no one in the church is telling us better. Yeah, no one from a governmental standpoint, which is not their position is not to be able to police morality. No one from the church is telling us this. And the parents who come from a generation of looseness is now even more loose in the generation that precedes. This is what we're having. And so you're looking at children kill themselves, commit suicide, live live in such a manner that they're not concerned about their safety, and they believe that they could live forever young. And you don't understand why they don't have any ambition. Ambition for what? Ambition for what? There's no enthusiasm, there's no incentive. Our society does not provide an opportunity and does not provide or present incentives for young people. Nothing. There's no incentives. Nothing. You got to fight for these things. They didn't create a space for us. You got to fight for this. You spend your years, watch this. Your mother spent all her money to send you to private school, to believe that you were going to give an opportunity. I gone to government school my whole life. Me and you fighting for the same job, same position, same things. When we get out. It's a dog-eat-dog world. And it's not enthusiastic. And children are smart. They're now looking at that and realize that there's nothing to fight for. And so they start their quest, even from when they was in high school. They start their quest of lesbianism from high school. They start their quest of prostitution from high school. They start their quest of homosexuality from high school. Oh, might as well get a head start. Everybody's doing it. Let's get started now. This is what they do. This is what's happening in our society. And everybody's looking around trying to figure out, where's the ambition? Ambition for what? Our society has, the top is stuffed. Our governmental arms are stuffed with people who are archaic and merely just being able to hold on for a salary because they have responsibilities. Not because of the value that they bring to the company or the organization. Because of the relationship that exists in these particular people are paying you for relationships in this country. They ain't paying you for productivity. They ain't paying you for work. They're paying you for relationship. Well, I know this fella a long time. Yeah, but the fella can't cut on the computer. Yeah, but he brings value elsewhere. Elsewhere how? He's great with bringing the pizza from Little Caesars. Is that what you mean? This is what we are faced with in this society. Menial jobs, small jobs that you can be able to give to a young person. And because they come with this sexual aura wrapped around them and coming to a young place, a business, a place of work, and let's say a man is in there, these young girls are being sexually assaulted or are being sexually solicited to. There is this provocation that there's non-productivity in our society. This is what we're dealing with. This is what we are dealing with. I'm sad when I see these stories and hear these stories and realize these things and watch all these stuff about this indifference that exists in our society. But it ain't nobody's fault except ours. Hello? It's nobody's fault except ours. Nobody's fault except ours. Your kid don't have no ambition, they don't have no drive, they don't have no insight, they don't have no nothing, because that's just what it is in our society. This is what it is. Now, I want to be a part of the change. I know this ain't gonna be easy. God knows this ain't gonna be easy. But honest with Jesus, I can say this to you, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and I can tell you my heart. Honest with Jesus, I would rather die trying, than to live in a defeated posture. I would rather die with my hands to the wheel, trying to be able to do any and everything that I can do with the little that I have, as opposed to just sitting back and trying to be able to act like what I'm seeing isn't real. I want to say that to you. I want to say that to you. I want to be honest with you. I want to be able to talk with you and let you know that this is what I see. This is my conviction. And this is what I believe. I believe that we can do better. The entire concept of righteous realignment, Bahamas, is to be able to get yourself back in position where God called you to be. To remind you through music, through conversation, through sound, through nostalgia, that there is a call on your life. To be able to show young people that we're not such a far off from you, and we still need your talent, we need your skill set, we need you. I've designed this to be this. This ain't no typical run-of-the-mill thing. When you listen to the radio station and when you set these things up, we have acoustic director, a sonic sound director, who is responsible for being able to ensure that there is a sound, a feel, a reminder that exists in even what we play. Now, this ain't gonna be no Christian station. You ain't gonna be able to hear Christian music straight through on this station. That's just not going to happen. I got a mission. I got to catch you. This is the net. I got to remind these young people. Honest to God, I just want y'all to give them a chance. I want y'all to give me a chance. I believe this, man. And if you're not one of the persons that believe it, it's okay. I'm not going to fight you. But I'm not going to sit here and row with you and tell you why are you doing it like that, Howard? Man, listen to me. You ain't into it? That's fine. We can move forward. It's like pop the balloon and find love. Why are we running on with all this conversation? You didn't pop your balloon. Next. Let me move on. I didn't pop your balloon, sir. Next. We're trying to get to a place where there is reciprocity, where there is an opportunity, where the talent that exists in our country can be able to come to the forefront. And this is what I have in my hand, Moses. This is what I have in my hand. This is all I have in my hand right now. And I ask you to work with me, man. Don't worry about it. We will be profitable. You hear me? We will be profitable. Major profits. All my shareholders are going to be hella happy. We will be profitable. But it will be a requirement for real work. Not this kind of a just casual thing. Real work. Real work. We can change the lives of these people. We can change the lives of them. This thing's ain't getting no better. No better. No better. We got to be able to do something to help. We got to. I got to commend the PLP for taking on an opportunity to be able to empower people with the acquisition and a tangible representation with the papers of on their land and all these things like that. That's good stuff. But communities throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas need to be able to taste this level of victory and to be reminded of their strength and capability. We got to do better than this. Our brothers and sisters are dying. Somebody just killed last night on Burnett Road. This other gentleman. And the Tribune spelled his name Boddle. Boodle. I thought it was Bottle. Not bottle. Botl. How do you spell Boodle? Anyway. Boodle with a T. but it's BODD. Found dead, and another person was found dead at the beginning of the year. Let's work together and make something happen. Let's work together to make something happen. This kind of a casual thing, it's not going to work, man. This casual effort that we're taking is not going to work. The relentless pursuit for being able to acquire just business and money, you got to have a reason. There got to be rhyme and reason behind the things that you do. There got to be a reason for people to be able to gravitate towards you. Got to be reason. In the papers today, yesterday, a Bahamian group in a $400 million bid for the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And they talked about this. Let me see where I get this. Oh, Lord. There's so much things that we need to talk about. I'm looking for the next business aspect of this thing. Yesterday, I was supposed to deal with this story yesterday. Oh, here it is. And I didn't get a chance to. So I want to touch it just a little taste today and see if you can give me some chance to do that. We're still at 137, so we can be able to jam with you. So it's a Bahamian investor group featuring an ex-Olympic swimmer and former FNM senator and granddaughter of a SuperValues owner are now aiming to raise more than $400 million in initial capital to finance the acquisition of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, GBPA, and its key economic assets. Nicholas Reese, chairman of and co-founder of Canoe, the digital payment provider, has teamed with the attorney John Boswick and Paige Wong, the granddaughter of the Rupert Roberts, to form Born Free Capital. Born Free Capital as a 100% Bahamian-owned acquisition vehicle that is seeking to purchase both the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the quasi-governmental and regulatory powers and the 50% Freeport Harbor Company and DevCo interests held by the Port Authority Group. Right? This is what he says. This is what the Tribune says yesterday. He said details of the Born Free Capital plans are contained in November 1st, 2025 investment presentation, which has been obtained by the Tribune Business. The purchase strategy is divided into two phases, dubbed Project Lionfish. I like things like this so much. Y'all don't know, boy. This is getting me excited when I read things like this. The Project Lionfish. Wasn't lionfish invasive in our society? Wasn't they invasive that you had to capture and kill? Like the king toad? Wasn't that the invasive species that was just spawning and growing everywhere and you had to capture that and then kill it? And it was poisonous if you ate it. You had to be able to eat it strategically. Good fish, but they're invasive. You had to cut it in a particular manner. Am I correct? Am I incorrect? Somebody text me, let me know. 827-0111. It's dubbed Project Lionfish and Project Grouper. These are strategic. Let's go. Respectfully, with a former focus solely on the acquisition or the acquiring 100% of the Grand Bahama Development Company, DevCo. The first stage would seemingly involve purchasing 50% of DevCo stake held by Hutchinson Whampoa real estate arm, as well as the matching equity interest held by by Port Group Limited, which is the entity in which all the GBPA's productive economic assets have been transferred to. Other Hutchinson interests, including the Freeport Harbor Company, would not be touched. This is Bond Free Capital presentation values the whole of DevCo and its remaining 75,000 acres of undeveloped land in between $120 million and $150 million. DevCo acquisition is branded crucial to unlocking Freeport's potential as Special Economic Zone, the SEZ, since its 75,000 acres will form the location of a new smart city by the sea. This is capable of housing 250,000 plus people needed to staff and drive the free trade zone. The presentation, guys, please forgive me, we can read this. We didn't read it yesterday, so let's deal with it. The presentation, which has been issued to solicit potential investors and necessary financing to make Bond Free Capital plans a reality, also discloses that it will hire major maritime infrastructure and coastal engineering and construction firms to develop the... Is that what we're reading? Yes, that's exactly what we're reading. So it says, to the dike system that will protect Freeport and the new smart city from further Hurricane Dorian-style storm surges, as well as the climate change-related sea level rises. The second phase is the Project Grouper, which involves the acquisition of both the Grand Bahama Port Authority and the Grand Bahama and Port Group Limited through the purchase of their their ultimate parent company, Cayman Domicile Intercontinental Diversified Corporation, IDC, which is valued at $270 million. This would include purchasing 50% equity ownership investment in Freeport Harbor Company, plus the entire 100% of the Grand Bahama Utility Company, which is Freeport's water supply. It would also involve acquiring Freeport's commercial and industrial and land holding company that owns 8,000 acres of real estate targeted for commercial and industrial development, plus Carrick Limited, which is the ultimate immediate parent for 50% stake in sanitation services. Port Group Limited, minority Grand Bahama shipyard interests would also be involved in the proposed deal. To finance its ambitions acquisition, Bond Free Capital's investment presentation reveals it's seeking initial $400.28 million in financing through a mix of debt and equity capital. The $42.8 million worth of equity is broken down into $5 million injected by its founders, with a further $37.8 million to be raised from both pre-seed and seed investors in two separate rounds. The $360 million debt described as bridged to the Mazzini financing will be raised through the insurance of two preference share classes that will pay interest returns to investors of 10% over a 2-year period. At the end of the 24-month period, Bond Free Capital is offering either to convert those preferred shares to $441 million worth of equity shares in itself, or refinance them via long-term debt without the same amount and paying 6.5% interest. The presentation also reveals that the Bond Free Capital is planning to give Bahamian investors, as well as the Grand Bahama Port Authority licensees, an equity ownership interest into the purchase, ensuring that 20 million common shares priced at $3.25 per share is a $65 million initial public offering. This is crazy. This is mad ambitious. This is possible. I don't know if it's probable. It is possible. I think most recently we would have heard that there was a check through the murmurings of society of $300 and some million sitting on the desk of those persons at the Port Authority to be able to consider the ownership or selling the Port Authority in these particular capacities, and they have ignored that. And so if the number I think was $346 million. And so if you're going $44 million up, I don't know where the big difference is. If I can come up with $346 million, we could get another $44 million to make it $400. That ain't nothing to talk about. But they never initiated that conversation. They never initiated that conversation. And so for me, as I read this, I see ambition. I see acquisition. I see the necessity for legacy. I see futuristic concepts and ideas about preservation of this particular space. I see a desire to be able to acquire ownership. I see this. This is what I'm looking at as I look at John Boswick, as I look at the young lady Wong, as I look at Nicholas Reese. I see this. And I don't disagree, and I don't, because I too have my ambitions. And so, but you have to forgive me, because though my ambitions are rich, I am a native of Grand Bahama. I know Grand Bahama inside out. I know the passion that exists there. I know the workforce that exists there. I know the labor. I know the vision that exists there. I know the capability that exists there. I know the space. I know the people. I know the vibe, the feel. I know the essence of the people that exist in this particular space. This is where I grew and live. I never thought that I would ever leave my space. And so when I hear this, I'm often taken back to Wallace Groves, or taken back to St. George, or Albert Miller, or Jack Haywood. I'm taken back to these particular men who understood that this wasn't just an injection of money, but this was the nurturing and the development of these particular things. I think that politicians get these things mixed up. I think that their idea of being able to represent in the House of Assembly is articulation, is they're good, I'm handsome, I'm good looking, I'm fit, people can vote for me, whatever that is. But I don't think that they understand that there needs to be able to be reciprocity of you giving me your passion and me giving you an opportunity. I'm not hearing passion. I'm not hearing insight. I'm not talking about this project. I'm not talking about leadership in our country. I'm talking about persons who are vying to become members of parliament. And so this articulated posture by this grouping, Bond Free International, Bond Free, this Bond Free group, John Boswick's group, this ambitious posture that actually speaks and articulates the way forward for Grand Bahama is more than, for me, more than just merely a vision. Bond Free Capital Investment is more than just a vision. It's a hell of an idea. I can be good with that. But I need more than that from you. I do. I do. This is not me saying that you can do it, but this is me saying that I need more than that from you. The ambition that John Bostwick has had on mammoth postures and mammoth business concepts over the years is amazing, and I'm hoping that he has an opportunity to be able to sink his teeth into significantly one of these projects. If you remember the LNG project, that he was going to be able to do the floating barge and being able to bring that to generate power to do this and do that, and he was ignored. And to release this information out into the public, and for public to be able to understand that especially if you don't have LOI signed with the Port Authority, an MOU signed with the Port Authority. If you're just putting this out there and presenting this for $400 million, which I believe, well, I guess their value depreciated over the years, but I thought that they were worth more than that in value. That's 75,000 acres. Got to be more than that. That 75,000 acres got to be more than that. But anyway, I digress. As I look at these things and just make a determination, let's be clear about this now. Let's be clear about this. Let's be clear. As we're looking at this and we're determining what's what, I like the idea, but I don't know whether or not this grouping has the heart to become Mama Bear and Papa Bear over Grand Bahama. I don't care how you feel about this. I don't care that, as you listen in and you have your view, Grand Bahamian people have shown you that they need leadership. Grand Bahamian people have shown you that they need leadership. And if you're not willing to nurture the people in this environment, if you're not willing to create a space to ensure that these people can grow, expand, and there's opportunities for people to come back home, if you're merely interested in being able to make modifications and bringing your concept, this is gentrification, and this is the same concept that President Bush seeks to do with Gaza. This is what President Bush seeks to do with Venezuela. This is what President Bush seeks to do with the acquisition of any territory and being able to acquire it for the purposes of America expanding their position. There's no desire to be able to deal with the people that exist in that space. In fact, when we come there, we're going to make modifications and we're going to give you something more bigger than you've ever seen before. That is difficult. The mindset that exists in that space is for the Gaza Strip. How now you're just going to be able to instantaneously just create an environment where you can do this for these people, but forget who we are? You haven't paired that with education, like a fine wine. You haven't paired that with anything other than your ambition and your desire for acquisition. This here is an articulate concept, even from reading the paper, that you are prepared to do a great deal. I'm going to read the rest when I get in. This here is a representation that I believe that you have great ambitions to be able to solidify your legacy, to create an opportunity, to be able to show that, the second generation after leadership can be able to take over and still be able to move forward with your father, Henry Bostwick, and like they say, the granddaughter or the great-granddaughter of Rupert Roberts. There is a desire to be able to solidify your position. We understand that. But I only want to know whether or not there is heart, there is passion, there is determination, there is focus, there is commitment. There is a clear understanding that you will be called upon to be a nurturer. The issue that Sarah and Rupert are having in Grand Bahama is they see this as business, but that's not what the conditioning of the environment is. I'm telling you. And I think that Rupert is learning, understanding, accepting as time goes on that this isn't business as usual. This isn't when he was the head of the football team. This isn't just business as usual. This is family. This is family. This is a community. And there's a level of dependence. And being able to deal with this with kiddy gloves, with people who have a passion to serve, but who also have a passion to be able to develop with their families. Let's be clear, man. Let's be clear as we see this. I just want to say that to you. I just want to be decent as I say this to you. I just want to be decent as I say this to you. $400 million ain't a bunch of money. We could reach that. That's light work. If that's what the Port Authority going for, or what they accepted, I'd love to see a group out of Grand Bahama who knows Grand Bahama inside out be able to acquire that as light work. That's light work. $400 million ain't nothing to talk about. I mean, on the global scale of things, where people are doing billion-dollar business and $2 billion business and $3 billion business and $1.7 trillion business, $400 million business, not even $500 million business, not even $1 billion. It's attainable. It's attainable. But I wish them all the best in their ventures and their pursuit and their posture and their position and their determination. I wish them all the absolute best as they continue to be able to do those things. Guys, I want to thank you so much for being able to tune in with us today. That's the show. I want to thank you for tuning in with us as we continue to be able to look at those things and really talk about this. When we get back tomorrow, I'm supposed to have someone joining me, so we'll see if we get that that guest to be able to join us to dive into these particular conversations as we continue to talk about where we are, where we're going, and how we can make some things happen. I want to thank you guys for being able to tune in with us today, and I thank you for jamming with us. We're going to see you tomorrow, God's Spirit, our lives right here on The Foundation. Have a great day, guys. See you tomorrow. God's Spirit.
I have a dream where the powerful and the powerless will sit at the same table, where the haves will see the have-nots, not as burdens, but as brothers, where class will not divide us, but conviction will unite us. I have a dream that the oligarchs will remember we must all eat, that the brown-faced neo-colonialists will remember who they are and whose they are. I have a dream that fraternities will build beyond internal architecture into a national bond, that the walls of design will give way to the bridges of brotherhood, not a fraternity of symbol, but a brotherhood of substance. I have a dream that we remain focused, that we stay in our conviction and remain fearless, that we double down, fortified, to return this Bahama land to the foundation.